morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Crystal Clear Show. I'm your host, Crystal, and it's my passion to help professionals 30 and over get unstuck from their corporate 9 to 5 jobs to launch and grow a successful six-figure business with my Crystal Clear blueprint. And today, our special guest is Trienne Topp. Trienne is an author, a speaker, and a coach. She's also an author with over 18 years in restaurant and 8 years in retail and network marketing. As a leadership performance coach, she is focused on business growth and building team through leaders, developing leadership, culture, and exceptional service as the pillars to sustainable business and personal growth. She is inspired to work with women in all areas of leadership and personal development to help them confidently create and be the next level versions of themselves. Let's welcome Trienne Topp. Hi, Trienne. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on your show and talk to your community.
Wow, thank you very much for giving us your time. I know you are a very busy lady with several businesses and people to take care of. Let's get into action. First of all, I would like to ask you, if you are a superhero, who would you be and why? But first, what is your superpower, Trienne?
So what is my current superpower? In comparison to, so I would think that a superpower would be somewhat of a telepathic. And the reason that I say that, and the reason that would be something that I would want to work even more on, is I really feel like I see a potential in a person before they have the opportunity to see it for themselves from a leadership aspect and really their potential of being that next version of themselves. There's been a couple times where I've worked with someone who I've wanted it more for them than they've wanted it for themselves. And I was burnt by that a couple times, but I don't let it deter me. What I do differently now is I let the person know what I see. And I let them know, like, these are the skills that we could develop. And this is what you could be working towards. Is that something you would be interested in? Because if I was always pushing them towards that next level and they didn't have buy-in, then they weren't necessarily going to push against it, but they weren't going to move towards it.
Oh, wow. Well, most of the time, when we talk about leadership, people will think that someone who's already a manager or someone who's already a CEO, but leadership is actually leading yourself and leading a team or even your family, isn't it? So it's really good to have a coach like you who sees the best versions of that person, because most of the time we don't like what. That's why I ask this superhero question all the time, because most of the time we don't see our greatest strengths, and other people can see it, but sometimes we say, oh, is it really me? Do I really do that? We always doubt ourselves, and it's really good to have someone from the other side who has a different perspective and how we can develop ourselves. But at the same time, we have to be willing to develop ourselves, isn't it? So who would you be as a superhero, Trienne?
Oh, I have all the love for Wonder Woman. I don't think that I will ever be, but I have all the love for Wonder Woman, not only because of her passion and conviction, but that girl is strong. And I want to be, as I talk to my girls, we don't use the F word. We don't talk about being fat. We talk about being healthy and strong. And, as I'm growing a little bit older, that seems to be even more important to me, where I'm like, I just want to have a healthy and strong body. I don't worry so much about size or a number or any. It's about, can I do the things that I physically want to do? And that strength in character. So it kind of goes both sides.
Wow. But I'm sure your girls see you as a Wonder Woman for them. we are always the best versions for them. They only see our goodness, our
And what,
strength.
yeah, and what's interesting is I think that in itself has stopped me in my tracks a couple times because I also don't want them, if they've said before to me like, I've never seen you cry, and I said I cry when things are really sad or I'm really upset, but I don't
Oh,
always do it in front of another person.
mm,
So letting them know that we are human, we do make mistakes, things happen. It's the same thing in leadership. My team, if I don't know something, they will always hear me say something like, well, where do you think that we could look? Because I don't really have that answer, but we can find
mhm.
it together. So where should we start? So I am not afraid to tell them I don't have the answer, and I include them in the finding of it. And it's the same way with my girls. Like, I'm not afraid to be human.
Right.
And I believe they have to see that, because I don't want them to ever think, I'm not going to be able to reach a certain level like my mom. Yes. Can they
Yeah.
admire? Can they look up to? Yes. But I never want them to have that, like, I'm not enoughness.
Oh yes, definitely. It's important for women, for our girls to feel that they are enough, because this world is already showing them that they are enough, but we need to empower them and make them feel that they are indeed enough, even if the world doesn't say it, or says the other way anyway.
Mm.
So what quote are you thinking of today? What's the quote that we could share to our viewers today that you think that will be able to help them?
So it's interesting that you asked this question, because as we talked, I was looking through the questions, I said, I don't have one specific quote that guides me all the time.
Right.
I tend to read something, I'll be motivated by it, create something from it. But the thing that popped into my head, I actually saw, I think it was either TikTok or a reel of some sort, but it was Tom Hanks. And when someone asked him, what drives you, or what quote do you follow, he said, this too shall pass. And he said, not only in the times that are tough, this too shall pass, but like we were talking about with our kids and how fast the time goes, this too shall pass. And
Yeah.
like, I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it, maybe because my house is always cold, but um, how can I be present when we're speaking of balance between that personal and professional? How can I allow myself right now to be present in this moment, because it's going to go away?
Right.
So
Yes.
how do I sit right here to be as present as possible, choose myself, and just remember, even in the hard times, this too shall pass.
Yes, indeed. It's true. When I also had the goosebumps when you mentioned your that this is your quote, because there are so many in the beginning of our business, when we start a business, it was so difficult. That's 11 years ago, and 150 people ago. We started with one person. We employed my husband's aunt, and we were hoping that people would come to our office and enroll themselves as us, if we have cleaners, if we can serve them, because we were starting, nobody knew us, and we were just there fresh, and even people came and asked, are you a sushi shop? Because we were Filipinos. Are you a sushi shop? And we were like, no, unfortunately not. But we have a cleaning service. Would you need our services? And he said, oh no, I thought you were a sushi shop, and I was craving for sushi. But then he said, when you need us, come and find us here. And we were worried because we didn't have a lot of clients. But then 6 months later, we had already 20 people working with us, and we said it went by so quickly, and little by little people came because they heard about our service, how good we were, and even clients and even workers came together and said, we would like to enroll into your company, work with you and have our house serviced by your cleaners, and we were so happy. But then of course it took 3 years for us to be stable,
Mm-hmm.
and at that time it was difficult because we had kids, small kids. I had a toddler, 2 years old, and I was had 3 months old baby at that time. So I said, this too shall pass.
Too
It
shallow.
was, and indeed it passed. Now my kids are 14, 12, and 10, and it went by so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So there are always times that will be difficult, but of course, there's always the time to harvest. But first, you need to plant seeds and plant seeds everywhere, and plant in your business, plant in your personal life and in your professional life,
Mm-hmm.
because it too will pass, isn't it? I would like to ask you, Trienne, what is your biggest why? You have a thriving career before.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you start a business in 2018?
Yeah, that's interesting because I was great at what I did. I worked for a retail clothing company. I was a store leader. I was really kind of an assistant to my district manager. I did a lot of trainings for the company. I won awards and those type that I traveled and opened new stores. Really, if you looked at my career with that company, it was very
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
What was missing was I really felt locked within those four walls. And I had all this information in my head that was inspiring, listening from podcasts, books that I was reading, just my own experiences that I thought, well, I want to do things this way. And people aren't doing things this way in business. And I want to help them do that, you know? Um, and I got asked by our local college to teach a class called service learning. And I have always wanted to teach college classes. So I went to my district leader and I said, you know, for me to teach this college class 2 days a week, I have to leave an hour early. So I would only be working 38 hours instead of 40 hours. And she said, we cannot make that work.
Oh.
And I said, okay, then I guess this is I gave him a 1 month notice. I said, I guess this is my notice. And what really stood out to me is I thought, you know, it's 2 hours on one hand, but the amount of time I was putting into their business, like outside those walls, was more than the 2 hours because I ran all the social media for our store. I
Mm.
talked about the company on my own social media, those types of things. So I thought, if time really was what you valued from me and it wasn't the leadership skill I was bringing, it wasn't all the managers I was developing for other stores, it wasn't the training I was giving the district, then this really is the best time for me to move those skills on to something where not, you know, could be appreciated, but that I can serve more people. So I started doing business consulting, and I started teaching those college classes. And it also gave me an opportunity that I started teaching character education at my daughter's local elementary school. So I've been teaching character education 2 days a week during the school year now since she was in kindergarten, and
Oh.
she's in 6th grade now. So it's really lovely to be able to be kind of intertwined in the school, teaching something I'm passionate about. And if you ever want to be a speaker and you are practicing your speaking in front of anyone, do it in front of a kindergarten class of 30 children. Because you will sweat like you've never sweat before, and they ask the most amazing questions. So it really teaches you hot seat speaking.
It's true. I think they're even the more difficult to ask audience than adults, isn't it? Because, and why is that? I remember my child, and why, and how come, and what is it, and what did you do afterwards? So many questions, and then you say, oh, how will I answer these questions?
Right. And you have to be so careful about the way that you bring things up because people's ideas flip in their heads, right? So one
Right.
of the lessons we talk about is feelings and, you know, what kind of feelings do you have? And everybody will start to shoot off feelings that they have. And it happens every single time I teach this lesson. Someone says sad and then someone says that their cat died. It happens every single time. So then the class is very focused on the fact that this person's cat died. And it's like, okay, well, now that we know how Sally feels, we can help her through that, right? So you just have to also be able to transition the conversation in the direction you need it to go in.
Oh, I'm sure you're their favorite teacher now. Because...
We try for sure.
So, what would be the most important lesson that you have learned in your life, Trienne?
I would say pivoting is not a sign of failure.
Yes.
I mean, when I first went to college, I wanted to open a handicap riding stable and I wanted to train horses. I also have always wanted to be a teacher. I was really great at the restaurant business and I moved up into a shift supervisor position quickly, which then when I went to college, I started to study business. And I found that I was very good at that, not only the numbers, but also the people side of it. So I got a business management and then a minor in psychology. And along the way, what's interesting is little Trienne wanted to be a teacher. I teach every single day, but I'm not a teacher in a normal, typical classroom. I've taught college now. I take an opportunity to teach or discuss or, encourage in conversations that I have. When it comes to a motto, I suppose it's leave them better than you found them, because I see that potential in so many people. And how can I have one conversation that makes it see it in themselves? So I would say that would be the biggest thing, is a pivot is not a failure. It's just redirecting you to a path that may, in the long run, get you to where you wanted to be. And again, this too shall pass, right?
Right. And I love it when you said leave them better when you found them. It's true. When you go into a place and you add value, you have definitely left everyone better than when you first interacted with them. And would you say that a failure has shaped your life? How has failure shaped your life?
I think the biggest thing is it creates that feeling of, okay, what's next? And I have to figure it out. A lot of people, so my parents were divorced when I was 9. Many people could look at that as a trauma in my childhood. Many people could look at that as something that held me back, if you want to say that. I don't look at it that way. I look at the fact that now my parents are with the loves of their lives. They've been with them longer than they were with my originals, right? And it gave me the opportunity really to see two completely different lifestyles, two completely different relationships, travel to some different places. And there was a lot of personal growth along the way. I had to mature quickly. My dad lived in Iowa. We lived in Michigan. And if I wanted to see him after I turned 16, I had to drive there. When I was 16, I was driving 7 hours across the US by myself in my own car. Like that was a quick lesson for me in personal responsibility. So I think nothing really can be looked at as a failure unless you allow it to. Everything is a lesson or a blessing. And I have definitely had a lot of pivots in my career that have turned out to be bringing me to exactly where I need to be right now. And I think that we have the opportunity to flip our mindset and say, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. There's a reason that some of those things happened.
Well, I love it when you said that everything is a lesson or a blessing, not a failure, because it's true. Failure is only a failure when you think the world has ended or when you stop living. But when you keep moving on forward and when you take the lessons and just keep the wonderful souvenirs, the wonderful memories instead of what happened, what bad thing had happened. It's really a blessing indeed.
Yeah, along the journey, these things happen and we get to decide what we take with us and what we release. And I think that that's the important piece that people forget, is that leadership really comes down to a choice. And you choose what you take with you, how you learn from it, what you are going to do differently in your next level. And choosing not to dwell on some of those things that happened for us and instead really think about the things that are happening for us a little bit later in life.
I Yeah, I really agree. You need to choose not to be affected by what happened to you in the past, but instead take on what it has taught you,
Mm-hmm.
and what how it has shaped your life also, because everything is a blessing, like you mentioned earlier. And leadership is a choice. It's really something that you need to make a decision, and like finding balance between personal life, it's also a decision. What habits would you do you have what habits do you have to find this balance in your personal and professional life?
I would say that first habit is my morning routine. We talked about it
Mhm.
a little bit earlier, but making sure that I'm taking time in the morning to get my mind straight so that I'm at my best for my family and for my work relationships. The other habit I have is I call it a set it up Sunday. Sometimes it happens on Monday morning, but I really look at my entire week. I use Google Calendar, so it's definitely color coded. And I set everything up. I know what's coming up. If there's empty space, I put in there what I feel like needs to be in there to get some additional projects done. But the other reason that I color code it is I look at the balance between work and family. And then
Mm.
that way I can say, you know what? I didn't get dinner with my husband this week, or the girls and I didn't go do something, go to the park, go get ice cream, whatever. We didn't do some of that stuff. And that's important to me. And I've said that to myself. So if I don't add some of those things in, I'm letting them down, but I'm also letting myself down. So I think one of the biggest habits is everyone complains about time management. It tends to be a problem for everyone. I think time is an illusion, but we everyone gets the same amount of it, and we get to decide how we're going to prioritize it. And if I look at a person's calendar, I can tell them what their priorities are. They might not like it, but I can tell them what their priorities are. And when I teach in my coaching, I teach specifically from truth and experience. So I am no nonsense. I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but I will give it straightforward. And like I said, when you look at someone's calendar, or if a financial coach looks at their bank account, there's
Right.
going to be things in there that they don't like, or else they wouldn't be looking for help. So it is my job to give them the information that's going to help move them to the next level.
Oh, I love that. It's really going to the nitty gritty stuff. We don't really like scheduling things. Well, I myself, I love being spontaneous, but of course we need to put structure
Mhm.
into our daily lives, or else everything will just go. We take 5 seconds in Facebook, but then in the end it's already 1 hour, 2 hours,
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
even it goes so fast, and we don't even notice it. And that's why we need to be structured and have coaches to help us and see what works best in our lives, and what they have done in their lives, so that we can apply what they have learned. Would you say that you are already successful in your life and in your work?
I would say, again, success equals happiness to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel successful when I'm at work, then if I have any free time, if I'm not careful, that's where I will go because I want to feel that momentum. I want to feel that motivation, right? So, an example of that is this Saturday, I actually have inventory that I need to do. That's the only thing that I have on my schedule that I have to do. I could stay at the restaurant all day long and make an impact and make a difference and feel happy and be successful.
Mm-hmm.
But then instead, I have to go, okay, but I'm going to be at the restaurant all day on Sunday and all day on Friday. So Saturday really has to have some family time in it for me to feel that balance and
Yeah.
successful in my relationships. Because so instead of structuring that, I said Saturday's the day, like you said, I like to be spontaneous sometimes. So I can
Mhm.
say to my husband and the kids, afternoon on Saturday, I'm free to do whatever it is that you guys want to do. Plan it and we're good. So allowing yourself some of the space like that and not feeling rush, rush, rush all the time, that happiness feels successful to me. Time freedom feels good.
Yes, definitely. To be able to spend time with your kids, with your family, whenever you want to, is already also a success, because not all of us have this leisure to
Mhm.
stop and be with our family, because sometimes it's a difference in priorities
Mhm.
also. And when you prioritize your personal and professional life, when you put boundaries in them,
Mm.
it's it works so well. But then you need to put boundaries and you need to say, stop,
Mhm.
this is my time with my family. And like I mentioned before in the previous Crystal Clear show, we work with our family, with our friends in the office. I mentioned you in the beginning. We hired my husband's aunt as our first employee, so
Mhm.
she's the office manager now, and the second assistant is my children's godmother.
Oh,
So she's our best friend, and now we hired another person in the company who is the wife of our friend. So it's really a very close knit. But
mhm.
my number one rule in the office is we work together in the office, and we work as if we are colleagues and bosses and like
Mhm.
that. But then once we get out of the office, we don't talk about anything about work anymore, because we need to be free and not consumed by work, work, work all the time, because we are one big family. So we need to put boundaries. At the same time, we need to work together and put structure in our daily activities as well in the office. So it really helps to have structure, boundaries in your professional and personal life, to find balance in it, isn't it?
Yeah, because that balance comes down to your habits and what you're doing with your time. I mean, when you mentioned boundaries, it's not only boundaries in conversation and relationships between like work and personal, but also boundaries of sometimes I have to turn my phone off because again, work mode is the default for me. But if I'm home in the evening and I'm constantly picking up my phone every single time it makes a noise or I'm just checking to make sure everything's okay, what message am I giving my children? I'm giving them the message that that's more important right now than the fact that I'm just sitting and having time with them.
Mm.
So I think that we just have to be intentional and really think about the habits that we have.
It's true. My 10-year-old son often says, "You're always so absorbed with your phone, Mama, and you tell me not to go into my phone." I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, it's true. I need to put my phone in my bag when I'm with you, and so I will spend quality time with you." And he says, "Okay, I appreciate that, because it's what the phone does to us. We get absorbed by it most of the time when we are on it, and we don't interact with the people we are with anymore."
Right?
So is there a, do you have three best practices that you could give to our viewers right now that we could implement immediately to our daily life to be successful, and we
Mhm.
can incorporate it to become habits in our daily lives? And of
Absolutely.
course,
So, of course, number one, I'm going to say drink your water.
that's true.
Everyone's running around dehydrated. It's not good for your brain. It's not good for your body. It's causing lots of inflammation. So, drink your water, lots of water. The second thing that I'm going to say habit wise is like I mentioned, do some sort of whether it's a set it up Sunday or make it happen Monday, whatever funny thing you need to put to it is take that time to set up your week. And, on that setup, I put my work stuff, I put our family stuff. And if I look at it and I'm out of balance, or I look at it and maybe it's been a couple weeks since I've spent time with a friend and really working on those relationships. Okay, now is a plan on how I'm going to put that in there because that's important to me, right? So if I can't get together with a friend, then I better plan it for the following week, maybe having a coffee date or a breakfast. So you're creating your priorities by setting that up for yourself. And the other thing that it does is, if you know what's coming, you can prepare for it even the night before. Like tomorrow, my kids are spending the entire day at my mother-in-law's. They're going to be swimming. I need to pack extra food, need to have sunscreen. So tonight, before we go to bed, I will have a bag by the back door that they will have put all their stuff in. So literally in the morning, all we have to do is pick that bag up and walk out the door. So how does that feel when I get up in the morning? It feels successful because I'm ready to go, in comparison to, oh, I forgot this is what we're doing today. Grab this, grab that, grab that. Everybody's in a hustle. Everybody's in high stress. It's not fun for anybody. So that would be number 2, is make sure that you have some sort of like set it up for the time ahead. And number 3, probably should have made number 1, is find a way every day to fit in some sort of personal growth, whether that is a podcast, a book, going for a walk and meditating, journaling, writing down your gratitudes, some sort of personal growth and development that it helps you just feel like you are learning something, like you are bettering your life, and you're doing it on your own. Because too many times we're looking outward for someone to fix it for us. And truly, everything that we need is inside. We just need to be leaders of our own lives and make the choice to make the difference. And habit change is hard. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy.
It's true. So number 1, the 3 habits that you mentioned is drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Number 2 is it's true. We always, when we are busy, we forget to drink water. And that's actually something that we really need, is to drink water, or else it's not good for our bodies, for our immune system, and for everything, for our brain even. So, and number 2 is schedule your day, like schedule your week, and or you even called it make it up Monday or set up Sunday. It's quite cool. So you have to find ways to be prepared, put your priorities in line, and create priorities, work on your relationships, and be prepared ahead of time. It's true, we need that. And number 3 is find a way to have a personal growth, maybe with podcasts, reading a book, or whatever, walking and meditating. It's true. It has helped me when I go walk in the park for even 30 minutes. It has helped me tremendously to just relax, breathe the fresh air, and just feel God's goodness through the birds, the trees, the plants, and everything that grows, because that makes you more active, that you find ideas, you find so many inspiration from just having a 30-minute break for yourself. And when you learn something, you read 10 or 20 pages a day, it really helps you in your personal growth, in your professional growth as well. Trienne, I would like to ask you, how can I serve you?
That's a good question. I absolutely love to do collaborations. So the best way for serving me is when someone says, hey, I'd like to do this, and I think that you would be the best person or one of the best people to be able to help me do this. Anything that can spread impact, that would be the best way to serve me. Is I just love people getting the inspiration that they need, and the ripple effect that comes from that. I always talk about how the culture at our restaurant is very important. Feels really, really good about himself at the end of his shift and at the end of the day. And then he goes home and he treats his wife differently, and he treats his children differently. Those children go to school and they act differently. The wife feels better about herself. She's going to do differently. They're going to have a better relationship. Like, the ripple effect is so important. So the best way to serve me is when relationships don't end. They just continue to ripple effect and help other people.
I love it. Well, I am here. You know where to find me. I'll be delighted to be part of of the goodness, the greatness that you're going to spread in the world, because we are not going to stop here.
Right?
And indeed, a collaboration is something, wow, I'm looking forward to. And we are already actually in the end of our show, and it's really nice talking to you. And I have noted so many things, golden nuggets from you, and I really loved what you have shared, especially setting up priorities ahead of time. When you put everything in order, you're less stressed, you're more peaceful, you show up great with your kids and with everyone around you, because you have made a decision to put things in order before and not do it the last minute. And it's I really appreciate that. And sometimes I need work on that, because I really, like I said earlier, I'm spontaneous sometimes. Okay, I said, okay, let's go to the park, but then we need to sunscreen, we need to go back forth and to the car. But then yeah, it's true, when people remind you, okay, we need to put things in order,
Mhm.
and we need to put them into action as well, because when we learn and without doing action, it's going to waste. Anyway, is there one crystal clear advice, crystal clear gem that you could share with our viewers, for those who have not been able to join us the past 30 minutes? Is there one crystal clear gem that they would remember you by, and what would it be?
I would probably say that we need to remember that we are creating our own leadership lifestyle. We have to stop waiting for things to happen to us and really understand that the opportunities are happening for us. And we just have to make a choice. Leadership is a choice. That'd probably be my best gem, is leadership is a choice.
It's true. And stop waiting for people to create for us. We need to create it for ourselves, because we are created in God's image and likeness. And so we have all the abilities and talents that we need right now, and take action with them. Could you invite them into your business, Trienne?
Yeah, absolutely. So this past year, I've been really trying to stretch and get the information and the content that I have to where people go, rather than thinking that they're all going to come and find it. Right. So currently, what I do is when I do my interviews or when I do my trainings, I will take that and it goes inside on Facebook. It's called the Female Leader Headquarters. We share a lot in there and create conversations around different ways that we can lead in our lives. I have a podcast called Be That Create That, which is the name of my training company as well. My YouTube is also Be That Create That, and I've got some different training videos up on there. And then I have a couple books coming out in the next couple months that are actually author collabs between a couple different groups. And I'm excited about those because they're personal stories that are going to have action points in them to allow people to go, you know what? I have a similar story, and all that's missing is I need to take action on these things that I think that I want for myself. And hopefully these books will inspire them to do that.
Wow, you have been a very busy lady.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much once again, Trienne, for joining me with in the Crystal Clear Show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Crystal Clear Show. Where you are now doesn't matter, where you are going does. So remember to get crystal clear wherever you go. And I would like to invite everyone. I'm launching a 3-day challenge on July 24 to 26. And I'm also launching a crystal clear beta program. So don't hesitate to message me, comment down below, and direct message me. Just send me a message if you have any questions. Thank you once again, Trienne. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Bye bye.